What's up, zombie fans? I'm Steven from the Hills Maniacs, and today, to continue our week of Halloween-related content on our channel, I'm going to be talking about one of our favorite series that we've been binge-watching over the last few years, I think, and we finally caught up with it on TV. I'm, of course, referring to The Walking Dead. This video is mainly for people who have never seen the series, so if you never have seen the show, here are my 3 reasons why I think you should watch The Walking Dead. First of all, one of the most intriguing things about the show that I think made it as popular as it is the way the zombies came about in the first place in this zombie apocalypse world that they're living in. It's basically there was some kind of illness going around that affects the brain, and when people died, they turned into, or they basically weren't able to control their bodies anymore, and they just kind of go around and gnash out at people and bite people and everything else, and that turns them into a zombie, etc. It all started from like one sickness that they couldn't cure or something like that. It's explained in the earlier seasons. I'm not going to try and spoil too much here in this video, but we find out in later seasons that everybody that we see on the show, or everybody that's still alive, I guess, that aren't the zombies, have the illness in their brain. So anytime any of them dies, they will turn into one of the, as they call them, walkers, or some people have referred to them as biters and things like that. They all have nicknames for them, but I'm going to call them zombies for the sake of this video because that's what they are essentially. They will turn into a zombie after they die, no matter how they die, whether they're killed, whether they get sick and die, or whether they just kind of pass away in their sleep or something like that. Whatever causes their death, they will turn into a zombie unless they are shot or stabbed in the head, which in that case prevents their brain from developing into this, or being overtaken by the illness and everything else. That's the only way they're able to beat that. And that has provided quite a lot of intrigue on the show as well, because it gives these tense moments where, like, one of the characters, they might think they're safe somewhere, and one of the characters ends up overnight just dying somehow, whether he had an illness that nobody knew about or whatever, and then in the middle of the night, he'll turn into one of the walkers and go around and kill a few of the other characters before anybody realizes what's going on. And now they have zombies walking around among them now with some of their friends or colleagues or family that they've become acquainted with over the course of the show. And it also makes it harder for them to survive because they can only or when they're facing the zombies, they have to pretty much shoot them in the head or they'll keep coming. So it kind of makes these tense moments and stuff where it's hard for them to get out of battling the zombies and everything else. So if you're kind of into seeing that sort of tense moments like from these kind of shows or movies or whatever, then this is one of the reasons you should check out this show. It's because it's filled with those kind of moments where you never know who's going to turn into a zombie at what point, or where the zombies are coming from, whatever. Like, they've been overrun by hordes of zombies before. We're starting to see more advanced zombies that are now crawling over walls and opening doors and things like that in this last season that they're doing. So, like, there's a lot more going on now, and it's a lot more intense and everything else. Another reason that I think you should watch this show is just because of the characters themselves, because they all have their own, motivations. Their stand on how certain things should be done, whether or not they should take in outsiders, or that they don't know or they've never met before, if they think that's safe or not, or if they should kill somebody or not kill somebody. And just the way that they survive, everybody's different, and you get that from each character. They all have their own stand on things. They all agree to follow somebody or not follow somebody, go their own way, whatever. They all have their own survival tactics and their own morals that they go by, which you see prevalent in pretty much every character on the show. I've never really had a problem with the character, like, motivations or anything like that. Like, I never thought they, like, oh, well, that goes against their character. Like, I think their motivations are present in every one of them, and I like seeing some of their descents into like madness and things like that, where they start to go a bit off the rails because nobody's taking their side in things, or everybody's doing things differently and they don't agree with it, so they start to kind of turn on the rest of the group and things like that. And not just the main characters either. You even see it in like the villains that we get in this show. I'm not going to spoil who exactly those are or what they do, but even some of their motivations, it's like some of them build cults around themselves and make themselves a king essentially. Some of them have just been like tried to lead certain people in a certain way and have followers that protect them, or they hide behind walls, and or just however they choose to survive. It kind of clashes with the main characters that the show focuses on. And I kind of like seeing that as well. We get both sides of it. Like, they're the crazy ones that are trying to survive, but then it's also the main characters group that we're following. You kind of start to see them almost agree with the villains in some cases. Like, maybe this is what we should be doing. We should be surviving the same way because this world isn't the same as it used to be. And we have to play by different rules now because things aren't as peaceful as they once were. And I like the dynamic between the characters of how they will clash with one another as well, where they're trying to survive in this world. And I think that makes it seem more realistic because in the real world, if we were to encounter something like this, I feel like everybody would have their own way of dealing with it. Some people would hide and cower away, others would stand and fight and sacrifice themselves for other people. That's just the nature of us as humans, like how we survive and everything else, and that's really prevalent in this show. And I think that makes it really feel more, or we get a grasp on how these characters feel, and I feel like it makes us feel more attached to them, like in a more realistic fashion, because we can tell like which character we would probably be if we were in this scenario, like whether we go run and hide, or we agree, or we follow somebody into battle, or whatever. You see that a lot in this show. You see people changing their loyalties or whatever and things like that, and it keeps the show on edge every single week. And I kind of like that. And the characters never really necessarily go away from their morals. They might just change it to something else in a way, or kind of tweak it a little bit. We're like, all right, I still believe in doing things this way, but I'll allow this person to also, we'll try their way as well, and then maybe they end up doing both ways to survive or whatever, something like that. You get all these different looks at how this world is and how people choose to survive in it. And that's why there's a lot of episodes too where the characters are some of the characters are split off. So there's episodes where it only features a couple of the characters, and then the next episode features the other half of the characters, or some episodes where it's just one character by himself running into other people or something. Now there are some episodes that were kind of like pointless, I feel like, but there aren't as many of those as there are ones that are actually really important to not just the plot of the series, but also just the character development for that specific person. And I kind of like that they do that as well, because it gives us, when they're away from the group, it gives us a look at how they choose to survive, or what they're going through personally and emotionally when nobody else is around. They might keep their cool in the group, but then when there's an episode where they're by themselves or with one other person, maybe some truths start to come to light where they're more broken than everybody thinks or whatever. So I kind of like that we get to see all those things as well. And it really brings the show down to earth, like I said. And that's why they've been having they're having a couple spin-offs coming up with some of the main characters are having their own shows and stuff after this season of The Walking Dead wraps up, because this is the last season of the show, but it's still available on like Netflix or wherever. You can buy it on DVD, things like that. They're on the 11th season, but they are having some spin-offs with certain characters and things like that. So that kind of keeps it fresh. We get to continue with this character and see them in a new adventure while still keeping the character that we've known and how they react and respond to everything, and that will still be present in their own shows as well. And finally, I think the best reason why you should watch this show is just for the intrigue and mystery of it, because you never know in this series who's going to die, when they're going to die, how they're going to die, whatever. Sometimes it's minor characters that we've seen for like 1 or 2 episodes. Other times it has been actual members of the group that we've been following. Some of the main characters have been killed or died in different ways, and that keeps you on your toes because every episode they might just randomly throw in a death in here, and now it completely changes the dynamic of the show depending on who died or the other character, how the other characters react to that death, and so on. And each episode kind of really plays into that. Like if two characters were fighting and then one of them ends up dead in the next episode, now it's like that person feels bad because they were just arguing with that other person, or maybe they killed them or whatever. It has different mysteries every week essentially, and even the zombies might not factor into it as much as some people would like it to be. Honestly, I've heard complaints about like the zombies don't seem present in a lot of the episodes, and then there's one episode when there's like 100,000 of them just in a big horde, coming at the characters and stuff. I don't think that's a huge deal necessarily, because I think honestly the intrigue of the whole show is just they could die in various ways, not just from the zombies, but they will still turn into a zombie, like I said earlier, with the way that the whole thing works. I mean, we've had characters kill other characters for whatever reason, whether in a blind rage or they don't like that person, whatever. When they're off on their own, like I said, maybe they go and make a choice and kill somebody that the group doesn't necessarily think should have died, or when they're at odds with each other, sometimes they've killed each other. There's been main characters get captured and killed by some of the villains of the show, and all kinds of stuff. It's realistic ways that they die too. It's not always just the zombies surround them and kill them. They die in different ways, whether they get sick or they are killed or whatever. Sometimes some characters have even just disappeared off the show and never come back, and we don't know what's happening to them or where they went or whatever, and stuff like that has happened as well. So it's like every week something different happens that really progresses the story forward, because now the characters have to adapt to living without this person, whether or not they liked that person or didn't like that person, whatever. And we get to see that and how they move forward from that character's death. And that's, I think, the most intriguing thing about the whole show, because every episode has something different happening, and there might not be a death in every episode of the show, but there's still something that happens in every episode that makes you want to watch the next week, and it's continuous, as it should be. It's not just a series of random one-off episodes. Like sometimes there are those, but then it picks back up and shows you what happened with those characters from the episode 2 episodes ago, something like that. It'll throw in some every once in a while, but each episode has something going on that you're wondering, like, is this character going to make it? Like, why are they showing me an entire episode just about this character if it's not for any specific reason? And then we find out later on that it's because that character dies a few episodes later into the show or something, so they wanted to kind of show us what this character is like away from the group and everything else. So that's what kind of makes it unique, because a lot of TV shows nowadays, some of the episodes feel random, or it doesn't progress the story forward or whatever. You get like cop shows and things like that where it's just like something different happens in each episode, and it doesn't necessarily always affect the characters until it's an episode that's like they're chasing the same killer or something for several episodes or something like that. But you don't usually get that a lot. Whereas on The Walking Dead, we get that kind of mystery and intrigue in every single episode. And that's why I think it is worth watching if you haven't seen the series. And it also did have a few spin-off series as well. There was Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead World Beyond. And like I said, they got a couple other series coming out as well. I think next year or 2024, something like that. So if you haven't seen The Walking Dead, I highly recommend it. You'll have to binge watch it now because they are on season 11, which is their final season. So if you're behind and haven't watched it yet, it is worth checking out. It's not even necessarily scary either with like the zombies and everything. Like, it's more focused on the human side of things and how they choose to survive in this world rather than just being swarmed by zombies constantly. There's not really any like jump scares or anything like that. So if you're worried about that sort of thing and maybe that's what's keeping you from watching it, then that's not really present a whole lot in the show. Like you can kind of see when the zombies are coming usually. Whether or not the character survives an attack from the zombie is determined a little bit later on, like when they're actually fighting the zombies or whatever, but there's nothing really too scary about it. But if you have seen the series, let me know down in the comments section what you like about it, what you maybe don't like about it. Do you think it's worth checking out, and so on. Also, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more. We'll have one more video for Halloween coming up tomorrow on Halloween night, so keep an eye out for that if you're a fan of all these Halloween-related videos we've been doing. Thank you for watching the video, everyone. I hope I've informed you in a way that makes you want to watch The Walking Dead. Let me know that down in the comments section. Thanks for watching the video, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.